Hey there, my friend. Perry Tinsley here. Have you ever caught yourself saying, back in the day, and then you would go into some sort of story where it was like, I could run miles without breaking a sweat, or I used to hit the gym every day, or me and my buddies would always get together and we would crush it right away, and we'd, all this stuff, right? I used to be in the best shape of my life. I was an athlete. Whatever the story, I think it's really, really easy to look back at your younger years and sometimes compare yourself to where you're currently at. And here's the thought. It's been many, many years for me, say, of where I'm at now to where, I was back in the younger years where it was in high school and all this stuff. But what if, you kind of just realize we're not supposed to be the same. We don't need to go through that old repetition. And so I was just in a conversation with a great guy, Bill. Bill, shout out to you, because we were talking about this just the other day, where it's kind of like, well, gosh, I know what I used to do to get in shape and stay in shape, and I was an athlete, and I just kind of had this ritual and this routine. And then some of the years got away from me. I'm back into it. I know what I'm supposed to do, and it's not working for me, or it's kicking my butt and I'm not sticking with it, or I don't feel as motivated. Yet I know the routine. It's that sort of thing. And that sort of thinking I want to talk about with you today, because what if we looked at it and it just kind of shifted our perspective and looked at it like every chapter of life, it's a new opportunity for a different but equally exciting fitness journey. We'll talk about that. So I do want to welcome you to another Power Blast podcast where we provide nourishment for the soul, allowing you to transform from the inside out, providing rapid results in mindset. That's a big part of it. Mindset and fitness, so that you can literally recharge your mental and physical battery and reclaim your power. And before we dive into all this great stuff today, I do want to share some ideas with you. If you head over to talktoperry.com, that's where I had a great conversation with Bill the other day, because I've got some special slots reserved specifically for podcast viewers and podcast listeners, and we'll connect with a 15-minute chat just to kind of help you reignite that spark on your fitness journey, because it's really all about channeling that energy, recharging that battery, and embracing the now. And we're going to talk about that today. So talktoperry.com is where we will make that happen. So let's take a moment here and just let's think about those good old days, okay? It was one season of life. Maybe back then you could spend hours in the gym, or you could, really hone your craft and dial in your athletics, and maybe you were in sports, maybe you're on softball team, maybe you're doing tournaments, maybe you were, golfing more, maybe you were in like flag football, or maybe on a football team. It could have been in the NFL, whatever. As life evolves, our bodies and even our priorities shift. And a lot of times we still lock ourselves into the past with certain things, especially things that we found enjoyable, things we know that were working. But we're at a point, not where we need to turn back time, although I know when I finally started committing to my health and fitness journey, I felt like I was turning back time in the way I felt and the way I was able to move and how I got back into shape. But I didn't approach it the same way as the good old days, okay? It's about creating like this fitness routine or this regimen, whatever, that really suits who you are today, so that you find the joy and the fulfillment and recognize your current abilities, your current priorities, and push those to new heights. So that was one of the things that I found. Right now I'm about to approach 60. But when I was about to approach 40, that was a turning point for me, where I was like, oh my gosh, I've let life get so in the way. I drifted so far off course. The beer belly was there. I was out of shape. I was kind of getting grumpy. I was overwhelmed. I was overworked. And I desired to get in shape, but it's just like to do that, it seemed like I was going to be even more challenging than a salmon swimming upstream, because salmon do, they push hard and they get upstream. I don't know if I was willing to do that. So it was really easy to just go back in the day sort of thing and dismiss things. Um, but I started looking at, now is a crucial time for where I wanted to go in the future. And I didn't have that big vision of, okay, what is it going to be in the next 5 years, 10 years? I kind of would get the general idea, but I knew if I was going to go into that positive direction, I had to take action now, because I had drifted off course that the very same way. So it was just kind of reversing that. I don't know if that made a whole lot of sense to you, but it's not looking at the past fitness levels, but creating new opportunities for yourself and discovering new strengths. And so that's where I started looking at, what are the stories I've been telling myself, how I've been trying to get myself off the hook, how I'm trying to procrastinate, or the excuses I used, or what triggered me. And I would start to look at those things and not ignore them and go, yeah, I got to get better. I would look at it right away and go, there's a message there. There's a teachable moment there. What can I learn from this, and how can I pivot, because this is not getting me to my goal? And I think a lot of us, we get to those moments where it's a little tipping point, it's a little bit of contrast, a little bit uncomfortability, and we'll decide to kind of ignore it or bury it, or give ourselves a false promise that we're going to do better, And so I started on this journey, and I realized, initially, my fitness routine was going to be pushing and pulling exercises, cardio, but it was starting with this little 5-minute yoga practice. And I tapped out on that. I'm like, no, I'm not doing it. I passed judgment on it. Too uncomfortable. I don't want to stand in these postures. No. It was only 5 minutes, so I would skip it. I skipped it for like a year and a half, 2 years. Until I started to question that. And I'm like, what if? Why don't I give this a try for the next 30 days? And I found, by putting in a yoga practice, and it was longer than 5 minutes, by the way, but when I put it in a yoga practice once or twice a week, I found that all my other routines, all my exercises, all the weightlifting got better. My movement was better. My flexibility was better. And so it was just questioning that thinking and finding what it is, and not being locked into the past routine that may have worked at one time. But if I'm finding a contrast and I'm butting up against the head with it, and it's making me avoid it, when I got a big goal, I've got to remove that roadblock, either in my thinking or my actions. And if I find a little limiting belief in there, a little story from the past that's trying to talk me out of it, I've got to address that. Many of us, we don't. We try to push through it. I'm going to grind through it. And then we dread things over and over and over again. And that's what I loved. I was strategizing with myself. And over the past 20 years, I've been able to navigate the waters much, much easier, because I addressed those. But I avoided the conflict and the contrast and all this stuff. I knew what to do, but I wasn't doing it. So there was a gap there that I was just ignoring and not figuring out how am I going to fill that and strategize. And talking about strategizing, let's strategize together. Hop on a free call with me, talktoperry.com. That's where we're going to discuss your current goals, how to channel your energy, especially into your fitness plan, and make it tailored for you in the now, as opposed to the good old days. I'll share my Power 5 strategy with you to help you, have the best path moving forward. So just imagine, 15 minutes, having clear direction and a renewed energy and renewed motivation, so that you're recharging that battery of yours, you're reclaiming your power. I often ask, how would your life look different if your battery was running at 100% every single day, instead of a 6-year-old iPhone with 2% battery life? Talktoperry.com is where that's at. So go back to the back in the day thinking, and really, when you start going back there, go, you know what? This was great. It's time to bless and release these. Embrace it. Gratitude. It got me to where I'm at now. But I'm going to embrace new strengths right now. I'm going to embrace the journey and new experiences. Moving forward, when you start doing this, you may discover some of the good old days sort of things, but I wouldn't start there. Especially if you're in a grind and it's not motivating you anymore, because your journey, it's ongoing. It's a great story. Each chapter brings its own challenges. It brings its own triumphs. And when we start looking at opportunities as opposed to limitations that we keep defending over and over and over again, like here were the defending ones that I was doing. My kind of like my top three. I don't have any time for this. I'm too overwhelmed and I don't have time. My other one was I'm not a morning person and I hate vegetables. Those were the ones, and I would defend those. If somebody would question me on it, I'm like, oh, you don't know me. You don't know my story. That was because I kept telling that story to myself over and over and over again, and I defended it. When I started to flip that story and really challenge those, so now I wake up in the mornings, I do eat vegetables, I don't feel overwhelmed and overworked, I took them on. So it's about looking at the new chapters and, not replicating the past, but really a vibrant, fulfilling future. So it's taking a look at those. I hope this was helpful for you today. Just know that you can choose to use your power and take control, or you can let the excuses, defending limitations, justifications, the rationalizations of it all, even comparison like on social media, you can let that control you and drain your power. It really boils down to deciding and committing to yourself and your goals, and then choosing to figure out new ways, embracing the journey, looking at possibilities, learning and growing, and keep moving forward. You've got this, my friend. I look forward to hearing what your top takeaway was from today. Drop those down in the comments. I do respond to those, and can't wait to chat. Should you book a call, I can't wait to chat with you there as well. You absolutely rock, my friend, and as always, remember, it's never too late. We'll see you next week. That's another Power Blast podcast in the books. Thanks so much for tuning in. And remember, when you are ready to recharge your battery, make sure you go to talktoperry.com. That's talktoperry.com. That's Perry. And I want to listen. I want to hear, what's going on. I want to help you in that 15-minute call to recharge your battery and reclaim your power so that you're off and running and creating massive momentum toward your dream. Also, every day, I am delivering more motivation, support, tips, and strategies inside my free community with amazing people like yourself. And we are conquering the mindset and the fitness. I do 52 weeks of free training in there. Plus, I coach and I mentor people, as well as give you access to tons of resources and guides. It's called my Upside Down Fitness community because we work on a lot of mindset stuff, the inside stuff. And we're a fun group of people striving to make healthier habits in this awesome chapter of life. So make sure you get in there. I promise you'll absolutely love it. Just head over to UpsideDownFit.com and you can get into the group. And hey, you would be an awesome friend if you get over to iTunes or wherever you listen to your podcast and leave an honest rating and review for the Power Blast podcast. It helps awesome people like you find this show even faster, and that's who I'm looking for, awesome people like you. That's all I have for this week, my friend, and just to let you know, you absolutely rock. That's all I have for this week. I'll see you on the next Power Blast podcast, and always remember, it's never too late. We'll see you next week.